Hey, kids.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Here we go. We are going to be going back into conceptual photography, and that is because we've learned how to use the camera a little bit, and now it's time to take that camera and get back into photographing ideas, photographing compositions, photographing things that we want to look at versus just experimenting. However, I would encourage you guys to continue experimenting with the camera. As you guys take photos over the next few assignments, do try different white balances, do try different focuses, different f-stops, do try different shutter speeds, okay? I'll try to give you a basic idea of what you should stick with, and then, but experiment with your content. Okay, guys, we're gonna learn about an artist slash photographer who's made quite the living playing outside and taking pictures of the stuff he has played with. Okay, so here we go. Learning goal: learn to invent or discover to create. So you're going to either invent a new thing or discover a process that's going to help you create artwork. Learn about Andy Goldsworthy and his photography setups. Now, Andy Goldsworthy is what we call an installation artist. I don't believe he was a photographer first. He was an artist who would go outside and build things, and then there was a sculpture. But then, how do I market my sculpture? How do I market my artwork? Photography. So then he becomes a photographer, and he has been very successful in that content. Okay? So, student, you can independently construct natural setups in effort to create a photographable scene that is based in landscape and natural art and the elements of design. What does that mean? Based in landscape and natural art. So you're going to be using nature. You're going to be using your environment to make artwork, and then you're going to photograph that artwork. Okay? So you're really doing a couple different things here. You're setting up something to photograph, but it has to be interesting. It has to be aesthetically pleasing. It has to be engaging. It should create tension, and then you have to photograph it. And that photograph needs to be correctly exposed, well thought out, well composed, good composition, using the elements of art and design. All right? To-dos: learn about Andy Goldsworthy and his work. We're going to just scratch the surface of that. We're going to see most of his work. You're going to hear a little bit about him. Identify the content of his work and a variety of design tools that he uses. All right, you're going to create a list of things in your outdoor space you can make art from in effort to set up an aesthetically pleasing photographs. Okay, so how can you find things in your space that you can put together, build, and create patterns or colors or forms with, so that you can make aesthetically interesting photographs to then photograph. Okay? And we're going to review the landscape art rubric. All right? We'll look at that in class together when class is happening, not in this video. This is Andy Goldsworthy. Boop, 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 boop. All right? He's a little Welsh fella. He might be Scottish, I'm not sure. But you can see here, he has made this artwork piece here, hanging in this tree. It's not Photoshop, it's an actual object. It is grass reeds that he has cut and chipped away at and stuck together in effort to make this space, this abstract natural sculpture. All right? He doesn't use nails, he doesn't use glue, he only uses the things that are in that environment. Okay? So, here's what he has here. You're going to see this as a repetitive shape, negative space openings in his artwork. You're going to see that pretty common, and obviously you're going to see a lot of natural landscape content. Okay? So here, the first thing I want you to observe in his artwork is that this and this are outdoors. They're landscape photos in a sense. However, instead of really composing a nice landscape shot, foreground, middle ground, background, horizon line, sky, water, what have you, he focuses on just photographing his artwork in that space. All right? So we've got a couple different things happening here. We have one that is obviously beach and rock, and then we have one that is in a forest with leaves and nature, alpine nature, things like that. Here we have got shape, we have symmetrical balance, right? Everything's kind of in the middle. We have pattern. We have repetition. We have variety. We don't have any space that is just a big empty space. Notice that there. Okay. We have consistency. We have movement, right? That spiral is creating movement, or at least implied movement, not actual movement. Okay. And there is some elements of color. We've got the color of the sand versus the color of the rocks. Notice all the rocks are the same color. Okay. This one here, obviously a different space. Looks as though he has collected leaves, tons of leaves. I would say he has placed leaves in this area here. Notice all those leaves are very different than these leaves here and these leaves here because they're all patterned out. They're all uniformly laid out. Now, one thing Andy Goldsworthy might do, he might take a bucket of water from nearby stream and use that to get leaves wet and stick them together. He might spit on them. He might put mud on them, things like that. He's not gluing them. Some sort of liquid is what he's using. So this one here obviously plays with color. Everything is mostly green in this space. However, he has found elements of yellow, probably somewhere on the ground, and he's collected enough of those to create contrast from the space around it. So we have dark brown leaves next to bright yellow leaves next to a dark brown tree. Now, as we talk about rules of thirds and composition, not great. It's not a great use of that. Now, you could divide it in half, and we've got imagery down here, but that's not a good composition. This is really about texture, color, contrast, hardly about space. So as a photograph goes, not great, but as the content goes, it's very exciting. One thing you'll notice in your photographs, the more interesting the objects you make or have, or the more interesting your subjects are, the better your photographs are going to be. This one here, now I don't know how he did this, right? But we have a lot of round shapes, right? Round shapes, round shapes, round shapes, round shapes. All these round shapes here, right? Round shapes. And then we have corners. We have square shapes. And that creates the contrast we need. Okay? And it's an interesting composition. He uses the square composition here versus a rectangle composition. In addition, we have this hot spot over here, this bright area, compared to dark areas in the other corners. But, get rid of all this stuff here, the idea is contrast. So we have contrast in shapes, and we have contrast in value. Dark water, or dark water stains on a rock versus light, dry rock. Okay? This one over here, contrast. Let's go with yellow. A lot of contrast here. We've got icicles that he has. Normally you'll see him if you watch. He's got a movie out. He'll like chew on the icicles and spit on them and like try to glue them together with icy cohesion. But what he's done, he's created a sphere here out of ice or snow. It's got multiple things that he uses. And then he builds it. Now he's built it in a way that it is in front of this dark background here. Okay? And so when the light hits it, it illuminates, it glows. So he is relying on a couple elements of art. We've got lines. Okay? Those lines become a form, right? He's created form out of this. We can tell it's a form because some of these spikes are coming out towards us. Okay? And he's also using contrast, light value versus a dark value, to create that visual tension you need to get a good photograph. Love this one here. I don't believe this is an Andy Goldsworthy photo. This is someone emulating his work. And so what they've done here, now they might have, this would be kind of a cool idea, they might have found leaves that had died in one spot but remained orange in another spot, and then they went through and just lined those up in a way that it made a circle. You could do that. So one half the leaf, right? This is my leaf over here. Okay, here's my leaf, but part of my leaf has died off. Okay, and I just take a bunch of those leaves and place them in a way that it creates a circle. He could have done that, or the artist, could be a girl, I don't know. They could have done that. That would make sense given that this leaf here and its lines match up. This leaf here and its lines match up. This leaf here matches up really well, so that could be the case. Or they could have taken leaves and ripped them and just made them fit and just laid them out in a way that it made that look. I think they probably found ones and made a circle out of it, is my guess. It would be pretty easy to do because you can just tilt the leaves however you want. But this is a very, very manageable photo for you guys. Maybe use rocks, maybe use leaves. It's up to you what you choose to use to create these photos, but you should be creating these photos, okay? And that's that, guys. So, you guys are gonna take Andy Goldsworthy style photographs. What you're really doing is you're going out into nature and you are finding elements in that space that are cohesive with that space. They make sense in that context. And then you're gonna use your creativity to go, how can I create an image that is engaging and interesting and exciting and worth photographing just with my natural surroundings? Now, if you want to play with the idea of photographing this in your house, right? Maybe there's things in your house, in your space you want to make artwork out of. Maybe you set up spoons and knives and forks and set up some sort of sculpture with them. That could be really interesting. It's a play on this idea. I would love for you guys to go outside and enjoy outside space, but if you want to do this same kind of artwork in your house, that could be a possibility. It could be really interesting in your backyard, in a park somewhere near you, okay? So you guys are going to take some notes, right? Write down what elements or principles you noticed in this presentation, and then you're going to take those and you're going to create a proposal for me, okay? And then you're going to go out and start shooting based off of those ideas. Set up a photograph and then shoot that photograph, and then we'll take a look at them. All right, guys. Have a wonderful rest of your class, and I will see you tomorrow.
This is a tasty burger.